My name is Michael Johnson. I grew up in a poor family, and since we couldn't afford for me to go to college, I started working right after graduating high school. Honestly, I wanted to go to college with my friends and enjoy a normal student life, but my family was too poor to even consider that. We couldn't even pay rent sometimes, and there were times when we had to move from one relative's house to another. Also, since I was born as the eldest son, I felt from a young age that I had to support my family. So, I took jobs like delivering newspapers and bought the things I needed on my own. No one else my age was doing the same, so I think the neighbors looked at me a little strangely. But I didn't care about those looks at all. Actually, if I had cared about what others thought, I wouldn't have been able to live my life. So, even if people looked at me differently, I just kept working. My parents seemed to feel guilty about making me work so hard, but since our family couldn't function without my income, they never told me I could quit.
Thanks for always working so hard for the family, Michael. You're such a big help.
None of my friends are working like I am, but since I was born into this family, I feel like this is my role, so I'll do my best. Besides, I actually enjoy working, so don't worry about me too much.
I'm really happy to hear you say that. But if you push yourself too hard and get sick, it defeats the purpose. So don't overwork yourself, okay?
I'm still a high school student, so I have plenty of energy. I'm fine. While everyone else is doing morning practice for their sports clubs, I'm just getting up early to deliver newspapers.
I'm sure some neighbors say mean things to you, but I hope you can brush it off and keep going. But if anything really bothers you, please talk to me.
There are definitely people who spread rumors or gossip, but they don't understand our situation, so I just act like I didn't hear a thing.
You're still in high school, but you're really working hard. I'm sure the experience you're gaining now will help you in your career. So keep going and don't feel ashamed.
I'm going to do that, so don't worry. Once I graduate from high school, I'll work at a company a family friend owns and try even harder to make things easier for you, Mom. That's how I lived my life, always thinking about how to make things easier for my mom. While my friends were still high school students getting allowances from their parents, I was living off money I earned myself. Of course, there were times when I wished I could get an allowance and enjoy after-school clubs. But I also felt like I was growing up, so I didn't mind too much. Thanks to my newspaper delivery jobs, I got to know a lot of adults, and some of them offered me a jobs even though I was only a high school graduate. So, I didn't have any trouble finding employment. Normally, it would have been hard for someone with just a high school diploma to get a job, but because of the connections I made, I didn't struggle at all. While everyone else was talking about going to college, I went against the grain and started working. But once I got the jobs, I was happy to see that the employees treated me with kindness. My direct supervisor, Terry, was especially kind.
If you ever need anything, just come to me. You were in high school not too long ago, so I'm sure there are things you don't understand. I'll answer anything you want to know.
Thank you so much. There really is a lot I don't know, so I'd love to learn. But I'll work hard and aim to be the best in the company.
With that attitude, I think your motivation is already the highest in the company. We hire people based on their skills, not their education, so there's no need to feel insecure about having a high school diploma.
Yes, there's nothing I can do about my education, so I'll focus on delivering results and take pride in my work. I don't want to be the kind of person who uses my background as an excuse.
Most people would make excuses in your position, but you've never done that. Still, you don't have to carry everything on your own. If you ever need to, come talk to me.
I'm really glad you are my first boss, Terry. With you around, I feel like I can give it my all. I'll keep working hard until I'm recognized by everyone. That's how I started working as a high school graduate, but problems arose. These weren't just my problems. They affected the whole company. Just as Terry had said, our company had employees from all kinds of backgrounds. There were people like me with only a high school diploma, people from other countries, and even some who couldn't fit in at other jobs and had been freelancing for a while. Because of that, the company lacked stability, and sales fluctuated a lot. I wanted to support the company, so I worked harder than anyone to get recognized. Of course, being a high school graduate, I struggled to perform as well as other employees at first, and often felt frustrated. I even asked Terry for advice on how to get better results than others. It's been 6 months since I joined, but things aren't going the way I'd hoped. I've got more drive than anyone, but what should I do? Is it because I only graduated high school that I can't perform better?
It's only been 6 months since you joined. There's no need to be so down. You might not be satisfied, but from my perspective, you're doing better than I expected.
Does that mean you didn't expect much from me in the first place? Compared to the company average, I feel like my results are pretty low, so I thought I wasn't doing well.
You might feel discouraged hearing this, but we didn't have high expectations compared to the college grads. But you've been closing that gap with your determination.
So you really didn't expect much? I get that. It's something you can tell right when someone gets hired. But am I really closing the gap between me and the college grads?
I wasn't going to tell you this because I didn't want it to go to your head, but the truth is, compared to the other new college hires, your results after 6 months are better.
Really? I thought everyone who started at the same time as me was progressing faster.
That's why you shouldn't be so discouraged. You're outperforming the college grads, so hold your head high and keep doing your best.
Thank you so much. If it weren't for you, Terry, I would have been even more discouraged. I'll keep working hard to live up to the company's expectations. Honestly, if it hadn't been for Terry, I think I would have quit by then. I was having a hard time every day because of my lack of results. But because Terry always had my back, I managed to stick with it. Of course, the other employees were kind to me too, but Terry went above and beyond. Since my job helped ease my mom's burden, I felt like quitting wasn't an option. That's why I'm so grateful for the support I received. And I worked hard to give back, thanking everyone for their support. As a result, I outperformed the other employees and became one of the top sales performers in the company. When Terry found out, he praised me a lot.
I saw the company's sales rankings for this month. You finally reached your goal of becoming the top performer. It's incredible that you've achieved this in just a few years since joining the company.
I'm really happy that you're praising me, Terry. I've been through a lot of hard times, but I've been able to keep going because of you.
I heard from the president that you wanted to go to college, but since you're the eldest son, you decided to work for your family and joined our company. That's really admirable.
It feels strange hearing that from you, Terry. I've only been here a few years, but meeting you made me realize that joining this company was the right decision.
To be honest, when you first joined, I was a bit worried since it had been a long time since we hired a high school graduate. But you've proven me wrong in the best way. I'm looking forward to working with you even more.
So you really did have those concerns. Even so, you've always supported me, and I really appreciate it. I'll keep working hard to repay that kindness.
The thing that makes me happiest is seeing you succeed, Michael. But if you ever have any concerns, don't hesitate to come to me like you always have. You're still my team member, so count on me.
Thank you so much. I trust you more than anyone else in the company, Terry, so I'll definitely keep relying on you.
Look up to me not only as your boss, but also like a parent. If you ever need help with something outside of work, I'll be here for you. I'll support you however I can.
Thank you for everything, even when it comes to my personal life. I really appreciate you taking me out to meals all the time. It's been such a big help. Terry treated me like family, always taking me out for meals and making sure I was okay. Since I put most of my paycheck toward my family, I lived on the bare minimum, and being treated to a meal was a lifesaver. Without Terry, I'm sure I would have been skin and bones. I might have even fallen into poor health and gotten sick from malnutrition. When I think about it, I'm truly grateful to have had such a wonderful boss like Terry. If it weren't for him, my daily life, not just my work, would have been affected. That's why I respected him so much and decided to work hard for him. I've always been someone who finds meaning in working for others, not just for myself or my family. Having someone outside my family to show gratitude toward gave me even more motivation. One day, while I was working as usual, Terry called me in.
Sorry for calling you in all of a sudden. There was a meeting with the executives, and something important came up. It's about the company's future, so I thought you should know.
I don't mind being called in at all, but what was the important news about the company's future? Don't tell me it's something like low sales or the company going bankrupt.
Don't say things like that. Thanks to your hard work, our sales are steadily climbing. You don't have to worry about bankruptcy.
Oh, that's a relief. So, what's the important news? Is it something I should be aware of?
Actually, while our sales have been growing steadily, we've been working with more and more clients with overseas headquarters. You've noticed that too, right?
Yes, I've noticed that some of our clients are based abroad. But does that have anything to do with what you're telling me?
That's right. To handle these clients more effectively, there's been talk about establishing an overseas branch. It's still only being discussed among the executives, so nothing is set in stone yet.
I see. I had no idea the executives were discussing that. I didn't expect something like that at all. Apparently, The idea of setting up an overseas branch had been circulating among the executives for a while. But as an ordinary employee, I hadn't heard anything about it. Besides, even if an overseas branch were established, I thought I wouldn't be sent there since I didn't have a college degree or any other language skills. Despite having top sales results in the company, I still felt inexperienced and figured an overseas transfer wouldn't apply to me. However, contrary to my expectations, I was called to a meeting with the board of directors. I felt a little nervous as I stepped into the meeting room, wondering what it was all about. When I walked in, all the board members were present, and I broke into a nervous sweat. "Why did you call me here? Did I make a mistake?"
There's no need to be so tense. We didn't call you here to scold you. Please sit down and listen calmly.
"Yes, of course. Thank you. So, what's this about? I've never been called to a meeting like this before."
We called you here because we have a request. Please understand that this isn't meant to make things difficult for you. With that in mind, will you hear us out?
Of course. But what kind of request requires such a preface? I trust you all, but I can't help feeling anxious.
It's been a few years since you joined the company, Michael. Despite starting with a high school diploma, you've grown tremendously and become an essential part of our team. We're very grateful.
I really appreciate hearing that, but such a buildup is making me even more nervous. Could you please get to the point? Judging from their expressions, it didn't seem like a small matter. Everyone looked like they were waiting for someone else to speak up. Sensing the tension in the room, I just wanted them to tell me what it was so I could relax. The board members seemed to understand how I felt, but their hesitation was stronger. Still, the conversation had to move forward, and someone needed to speak. Terry, sensing the need, took the lead and spoke on behalf of the group.
The reason I called you in today is related to what we talked about last time. That's why I'm speaking on behalf of everyone. What I'm about to tell you could affect the course of your life. Are you ready for that?
It's hard to be ready when you suddenly say something like that. Also, what do you mean by it being related to our last conversation? I've talked with you so much, Terry. I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
I'm talking about the discussion we had about establishing an overseas branch. That idea has become much more realistic, and we've even narrowed down the countries where we might open it.
Oh, right. We did talk about that. I didn't think it was related at all, so I completely forgot. Last time, it sounded more hypothetical, but now it's actually taking shape.
Exactly. After multiple meetings among the executives, we concluded that having an overseas branch would increase our sales and help expand the company.
If we set up an overseas branch at this point, it would definitely make transactions with our existing clients smoother. I think it's a great idea with a lot of potential benefits.
I'm glad to hear you say that, especially since you're our top salesperson. Hearing that from you makes me even more confident this move will succeed. Let's move forward with this plan.
I understand the part about opening an overseas branch, but what's the request you mentioned? It sounds like it's a different matter, right?
No, this is exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. We want you, Michael, to be the representative of the overseas branch.
What? What exactly do you mean by that? I had a vague idea where the conversation was going, but I never expected them to actually make such a proposal. To be honest, I thought they wanted to ask for my input on strategies for building the branch as the top salesperson. But it turned out they wanted me to be directly involved, and not just involved, but to take the lead as the representative. Of course, I was honored by the company's trust in me, but I'd grown up in a poor family and had never even been overseas. Plus, I'd only been working for a few years. How could I take on the role of a branch representative? I didn't want to accept out of obligation and end up causing trouble, so I decided to be honest about my feelings.
I know this must be overwhelming to hear all of a sudden, but remember, this is still in the planning stages. Just take your time and think it over, okay?
I'm really grateful for your faith in me, but I've never been abroad, and I don't speak another language at all. I don't think I'm ready for something like this yet.
Don't worry. We plan to assign interpreters to help with the language barrier. That being said, I understand your concerns. You've only been working here for a few years, and I know you're thinking about your family too, so I'm not expecting an immediate answer.
Yeah, I still need to look after my younger siblings, so the idea of going overseas feels really tough right now. I'm sorry for turning down such an amazing opportunity.
No, I appreciate your honesty. You're right. It's a lot to ask of someone who was in high school not too long ago.
I'm really happy you believe in me, but I still have so much to learn. I'm worried I might cause problems if I take on such a big responsibility.
Let me ask you this. If you gain more experience and a few more years pass, do you think you'd be willing to take on an overseas assignment?
Well, I'm not uninterested. If I can grow more as a salesperson, I'd love to take on that kind of challenge someday.
Understood. For now, keep working hard here in the US. When the time comes that you're ready, it'd mean a lot if you became our branch representative.
Thank you so much for supporting me through everything. I want to grow into someone who can live up to the company's expectations and be ready to work overseas someday. That's how I ended up declining the offer to become the overseas branch representative. Since I wasn't married or tied down, I technically could have accepted the assignment. Usually, declining such an offer would mean being taken off the fast track for promotions. But the executives didn't abandon me. They told me to let them know if I ever felt ready to take on the challenge. So I resolved to prepare myself and grow, aiming to be ready for an overseas role someday. With that in mind, I started studying languages while continuing to work hard. A few months after that meeting, the overseas branch was officially opened and began operations. However, in the first few years, the branch struggled and didn't generate much profit. In the midst of that, Terry called me in again.
Sorry for calling you in so suddenly. I needed to talk to you about something important.
It's been a while since you've called me in for something important. Is there some kind of issue? I thought things had been going smoothly lately.
I'm sure you've heard about this, but the overseas branch we set up a few years ago is in trouble. If things continue like this, it might have to be shut down.
I'd heard things weren't going well, but I didn't realize it was bad enough to consider closing it. I didn't expect that at all.
We had hoped things would go better, but it hasn't grown as much as we expected. The executives have been talking about it. We really don't want to shut it down after all the effort it took to open it.
It'd be such a waste to close it after just a few years. I understand the situation now, but why was I called in?
Well, you've been studying languages since the branch opened because you knew you might get sent overseas one day. I wanted to know how you felt after hearing all this.
Oh, so that's what this is about. Well, since I've been studying languages, I feel confident that I can contribute. If you think I'm ready, Terry, I'd like to take on the challenge.
That's great. Then go for it. I'll inform the executives. Go overseas and give it your all. You've grown so much these past few years. I know you'll do great.
After several years, I was finally transferred to the overseas branch. For those years, I had been studying languages alongside my job, so I was able to hold everyday conversations pretty comfortably. Of course, I wasn't sure how well it would hold up abroad, but compared to when I was first invited, I was much more confident. Back then, I couldn't speak any at all and never thought I'd be able to work overseas. But after years of studying and working hard, I felt like I could make a real impact at the overseas branch. Feeling ready, I told Terry about my intentions and got the chance to take on the challenge. When I arrived at the overseas branch, I performed better than I had expected. Apparently, the branch had hired only local staff and hadn't been able to recruit the best talent. That's why they had been struggling, and just by me being there, the situation changed drastically. 10 years passed, and I was finally called back to the main office. When I returned, the staff had changed completely. It was filled with people I didn't know. However, they held a welcome party for me to celebrate my return.
Today, we're throwing a welcome party for some guy none of us really know who just joined the company. Turns out, he's a high school graduate, so he must be useless.
Well, I'm not sure what to say to that introduction.
I don't know where this guy came from, but imagine being our age and only having a high school diploma. There's no way someone like that belongs here.
I actually came from overseas, and
Oh, so you couldn't get a job anywhere here and had to go abroad just to survive? Man, it must be tough being low-educated and incompetent.
that's not really how it happened.
You don't have to make excuses. I just don't get why our company hired someone who's only qualified to work overseas.
The person making these remarks was Thomas, the department head at the main office, and he seemed completely unaware of who I was or what I'd done at the overseas branch. He assumed I was some outsider from another company and judged me solely based on my education. I had been looked down upon for my education before, so this wasn't anything new to me. But it irritated me that his inappropriate comments were ruining the mood of the welcome party for everyone. Even though I wanted to say something back, I held my tongue since this was my first time meeting Thomas. Then, my former colleague Emily, who had worked with me before I left for the overseas branch, spoke up.
Thomas, are you seriously saying you don't know who Michael is? I can't believe someone at our company doesn't know about him.
Why would I? He just joined today. Did he get famous for committing a crime overseas or something?
You really should stop looking down on Michael. You're going to regret it when you find out who he really is.
Why would I regret finding out the truth about some incompetent high school grad? Nothing about this guy is going to surprise me. He's probably only known because of some trouble he caused.
Judging by your reaction, you really don't know, do you? I bet everyone else here knows who Michael is and agrees with me.
Emily, I appreciate you standing up for me, but you're really raising the stakes here. I'm not that big of a deal, so let's not overdo it.
See? Even he admits it. He's just someone with a bit of fame but no real value.
Thomas truly didn't know who I was and kept looking down on me relentlessly. Even after Emily called him out, he kept his arrogant attitude and showed no signs of changing. From the other employees, I learned that Thomas often acted condescendingly toward others. But since he had never encountered someone with a high school education like mine, he seemed especially dismissive toward me. I had never met Thomas before, so I assumed he was only behaving this way toward me. However, it turned out he had a reputation for souring the office atmosphere with his behavior. While this exchange was happening, Terry arrived at the restaurant where the party was being held.
I heard Michael was back, so I wrapped up work early and rushed over. You've done an amazing job these past 12 years, Michael. I'm really grateful for everything you've done.
Thank you so much for always listening to my requests, Terry. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have grown as much as I have.
Even though I never got the chance to visit you over there, I kept hearing stories about how you were thriving. I've always been proud of you, Michael.
I'm really glad to hear that. Of course, the work overseas was tough, but I learned a lot, and it turned out to be an incredible experience.
The fact that you're back at the main office now means we get to see an even better version of you. I'm excited to see how much you'll achieve here.
You're making me nervous, Terry, but I'll do my best to meet your expectations. Thanks so much for coming to the welcome party.
Why is someone like Terry, a top executive, so close with a high school grad like him? Are you two long-lost relatives or something?
Thomas genuinely had no clue who I was and couldn't understand why I was so friendly with Terry. Since I'd been working overseas for 12 years and rarely returned to the US, it made sense that he was confused.
Thomas, what on earth are you talking about? Michael is the one who turned our overseas branch around and made it grow. Even now that he's back at headquarters, he's still overseeing all of our international operations.
Are you talking about the overseas division that accounts for more than half of our company's revenue? We have over 10 branches. Are you saying he's managing all of them?
That's exactly what I'm saying. There used to be only one branch, and even that one was struggling. But after Michael went overseas, it flourished, and we kept expanding.
I did hear something about someone who went abroad and massively boosted sales, but I never imagined that person was a high school graduate.
You always judge people based on their education, and that's something you need to fix if you want to grow. If you let being a department head go to your head, I won't hesitate to demote you.
I'm terribly sorry.
It's been a while since I've been back at the main office, and there are a lot of things I don't know. I'd really appreciate it if you could help me out when I need it.
Of course, please don't hesitate to ask me for anything. I deeply apologize for my rude attitude earlier.
Thomas shrank back after Terry warned him about being demoted for getting carried away and apologized to me. Since I wasn't angry to begin with, I accepted his apology right away. Now that I was back at headquarters, I knew I needed to carefully plan things out to contribute to the company. As part of that effort, I proposed forming a new internal group. When I told Terry about it, he made me an executive so I could lead the team. I never imagined that someone who started with just a high school diploma could become an executive, and I couldn't hold back my tears of joy. I know there will be more challenges ahead, but I'm determined to face them head on with everything I've got.